Good evening. This is Maestro with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we have a Best-of-5 Faction War series between the Space Marines and the Eldar. Our first player will be the Tenso, playing as the Tech Marine, a Space Marine ranged hero with a gun for every occasion and the ability to repair vehicles. Next up, it's going to be LocalghostUrOrders, playing as the Apothecary, healing commander with a targeted heal and a passive health regeneration aura. And finally, it's going to be Katla, playing as the Force Commander, tanky melee hero that buffs and disrupts with Battlecry. Their opponents, a bunch of Eldar. We're going to start off with Draktan, playing as the Farseer. This is a support and buffing commander for the Eldar. It's going to be Noisy up next, playing as the teleporting Warp Spider Exarch. Lots of mobility and ranged harassment. And finally, it's going to be Django, playing as the Warlock, melee commander who can either become a spellcaster or a tank, depending on your choices of war gear. So then, looks like we've got some scouts engaging with the Warp Spider and the Dire Avengers in melee, but the scouts can't really tank that. Scouts usually don't want to be up in front, and oh no, I don't like the positioning of these tactical marines right here. I mean, they're out of cover against Dire Avengers and Warp Spider Exarch, who are in cover. Meanwhile, the Banshee's also getting into melee. These tacks absolutely feeding right now. One model goes down. There's a decent chance that they might lose another one in retreat. Indeed, it does happen. So, man, not quite entirely sure what happened right there. But whatever happened, it happened. It is what it is, in the words of the United States President. But we're not getting too political right here. This Farseer going to be a little bit overwhelmed. Eventually, she is by herself. The Dire Avengers have been forced off. And, yeah, I mean, eventually here, she can tie up these scouts as much as she wants, but she should be getting kited and focus fired by the 3 range units that are here. She uses Guide on herself, I believe, and then instantly retreats. Meanwhile, on this side, oh, looks like things are going a little rough for our Space Marine players on this side. Katla losing the Force Commander. Dire Avengers now opening fire on this node, along with that Warp Spider Exarch. Again, a lot of these Dire Avengers out of cover. Really can't afford that with how squishy they are against those tactical Marines. So, luckily, these Dire Avengers starting to get a little bit smarter. Going to use those energy shields, which give perfect cover, where you actually are immune to all range damage until the energy shield itself is worn down. So, looks like the Apothecary going in for a revive has to drop a heal on himself, and eventually has to retreat. Does not even succeed in getting the revive on the Force Commander. So, looking like rough starts for our Space Marine players right here. Dire Avengers once again. Yeah, really, we're really seeing the difference here, just how much more helpful it is to use that energy shield. Just Dire Avengers are so squishy, especially for how relatively expensive they are to reinforce. Another squad of Dire Avengers going to lose a few models and have to get out of there. Meanwhile, we are going to have the Farseer move up. She will start the decap. And over here, the Tenso will just kind of look at the distance, trying to make some tactical assessments. We are going to have the Guardian Weapon team set up, however, and this is looking like this is going to have to be Tenso forced off. But Grenade is coming out, possibly just in time. Shotgun Blast is used on the Banshees to stall their approach, but now there's no additional Shotgun Blast. The Devastator Marine Squad is here, however, and sets up just in time to slow down those Howling Banshees. So, nicely managed engagement by the Tenso. Farseer will complete the cap, but eventually she will have to just retreat out of there. Looks like there's going to be some support from Noisy, however. Noisy, of course, once again setting up those energy shields. The Dire Avengers trying to go for a flanking angle. Oh, but looks like they don't entirely have to, because the Warp Spider Exarch trying to set up. Meanwhile, the Dire Avengers still going in because they want to get the grenade on the Devastator Marine Squad, but they're taking so much damage from the attacks. This actually could be a wipe on these Dire Avengers. Will it happen? It's pretty close. Oh my god, the suppression there from the Guardian Weapon team, I think, is pretty much what saved those Dire Avengers. Meanwhile, Scouts looking to move in, undoubtedly looking for a grenade, but they think better of it, taking a little bit too much damage. Looks like Tenso will be forced off over here. On the other side of the map, we are going to have a Warlock getting pretty low. Warlock also getting quite a few upgrades, getting both the Merciless Witchblade and the Champion's Robe. It is something that is colloquially referred to as the Jedi build, and we'll just colloquially refer to that as a squad getting wiped. Howling Banshees down for Django. That Jedi build from the Warlock. It is this with the Merciless Witchblade and the Champion's Robe. Very age-old build for the Warlock. It is the tanking build for him. And I do think you see it a little bit more commonly against Space Marines than you do against some of the other races. Since some of the other things that the Warlock has are, I'd say, the more spellcasting style of the Warlock, a little bit better against squishier races, although Warp Throw can definitely be useful against any race. Alright, so looks like Django trying to move out. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be a good engagement for him. He's got the Warlock, though. Warlock is very tanky. Gets a nice leap into combat, but there's still only so much damage he can take. He's got some support, though, also from some of Noisy's Dire Avengers, and that might help. And looks like the Warlock is managing to draw enough aggro that the Dire Avengers are able to get their damage done. Django's going to need to pay attention, though, to this Force Commander, who's now focusing on his Dire Avenger. He's got to kite them around and draw them into some of the fire of some of these other squads. Meanwhile, looks like there are some things happening over here as well. Dire Avengers in melee with the Tactical Marines. It might be another dead Dire Avenger squad, and indeed it will be. Oh, looks like on this side, Django lost one too. So some very early, we did have, initially it looks like a bit of a rough start for our Space Marine players, but now it's our Eldar players who seem to be dropping squads left and right. We've had 2 Dire Avenger squads go down, a Howling Banshee squad go down. We've got more Dire Avengers that are in here with very, very few hit points. One that's very, very close to dying, but is retreated by Noisy. Noisy, kind of like one of the senior players in this game. He's been playing this game for like a decade. Grenade's going to go in, and it will actually pretty much be dodged. And mostly, well, it did connect on the Warp Spider Exarch. We're going to see the Warp Spider Exarch equipped with the improved Warp Generator. So Noisy, that does explain why we see the double Howling Banshees out of Noisy. Typically, I generally think of the double Howling Banshees as something you see with the Farseer more often, but getting double Howling Banshees with the Warp Spider Exarch when you get the improved Warp Jump Generator, that's a thing too. It's a little bit older, actually, and it's also something that's seen as a little bit cheesy. Like, if you get a good one, you can get some squad wipes. Definitely some counterplay to it, since if you have a player who is paying attention, it is something that is pretty telegraphed. All right, Warlock. I don't know if the Warlock's, if it's the best use of his time is for him to bash this node, especially if he's being shot at by the Tactical Marines, but he's just going to continue at it anyway. Meanwhile, Scout's going to come around from the side, and the Guardian Weapon Team will just retreat. That's going to have to be the Dire Avengers out of there as well before they get knocked over by a shotgun blast. On this side, we're going to see a Farseer go down. We're also going to have some... Oh, here it is. That is a use of the improved Warp Jump Generator. No, just kidding. The improved Warp Generator. It will result in a kill on a Devastator Marine squad, which is actually very realistic. Realistically, that's honestly what the group teleport should achieve. It should be a squad wipe on a setup team, especially Devastators with their heavy armor being more vulnerable to the power weapons of the Howling Banshees. So Assault Marines moving in, possibly looking for a cap on the victory point. Maybe not, or maybe they are, going back and forth. Alright, so they will go for it. Can easily just jump out if they are threatened. Drop pod will be taken down. Autarch here for Draktan will already be upgraded to have her energy shields, making her quite a bit tankier. Warp Spider Exarch looking for a revive here. Looks like he will get it on Draktan, picking up the Farseer back again. Draktan, though, does he realize that his Farseer has been revived? Have to be careful here, because commanders are, they are revived with only partial health. If you don't realize it when a teammate has revived your commander and there are enemies nearby, oh no, what a nice grenade on those Banshees. Sometimes your commander will just actually start aggroing onto an enemy target, and they'll start getting into a fight when they don't even have much health to fight with. Anyway, Warp Spider Exarch here up against these scouts. Ideally, this Warp Spider Exarch wants to take a few steps forward to actually be in cover. Especially with the Warp Spider Exarch having a teleport. You should very, very rarely have the Warp Spider Exarch out of cover when he is in a fight with people. Meanwhile, some Warp Spiders are here, and they're already pretty close to dying. This is pretty... Okay, I mean, luckily for Django, it's so close to base that he's able to get the Warp Spiders out of there alive. Melted Dreadnought out for the Tenso. Of course, he is a Tech Marine player. Tech Marines usually want to go for more vehicle-centric builds. And going for the Multi-Melta is always an interesting one. Multi-Melta doesn't have the long range of the Assault Cannon, not by a pretty big margin, actually. The range of the Multi-Melta is quite low. I think it's in the 20s, whereas I believe the range of the Assault Cannon, I think, is actually almost double. But big advantage we see of this Assault Cannon, oh my god, the way it just gives those models right there, does 190 damage per shot. So it will often instantly kill many infantry squad models. Meanwhile, Autark here all by herself needs to absolutely get the hell out of here. Webway Gate is here, it's shown, it's revealed, so it should be taken down promptly. Double cap now for our Eldar players. And double Warp Spiders for Django is also quite a strange one, in my opinion. Space Marines, I mean, Warp Spiders always have some use because of their mobility, makes them highly effective against melee units. They are just a high damage unit, and that Haywire is pretty universally useful. But getting Space Marines is generally a matchup where Warp Spiders tend to be a little bit weaker, because things like Stern Guard veterans are very strong against them. So against Space Marines, you could definitely make an argument for getting one, but getting two seems excessive. If you want two high damage ranged units, I think it would be better to have one squad of Warp Spiders and one squad of Reapers, especially because you at some point could be dealing with Terminators. You're already dealing with the heavy armor of the Tactical Marines and the Assault Marines. That being said, at least so far, the way that these Warp Spiders were used in that engagement did work out pretty well, using that teleport to just dodge your opponent, particularly the Assault Marines. They attempt to jump, you just teleport away from them. Now we're going to see a Warp Spider Exarch here upgraded with the Power Blades, which is quite interesting. These days, I very much see players more often going for the ranged weapon upgrades for the Warp Spider Exarch, either the Entangling Web or the Heavy Gauge Death Spinner. This gives him a little bit more potent melee, and of course also makes him a little bit threatening against vehicles. But, you know, I guess just generally people prefer to play to the strengths of the Warp Spider Exarch and just focus on his range damage. Tempest Barrage will go out for the Reapers, but I think the Reaper's going to be overwhelmed by the Dreadnought that is just tearing them apart or melting them apart or giving them with that Multi-Melta. Eldar going to be trying to push back out here. Noisy with this Wraith Lord. No upgraded weapon on this just yet, however. It's going to be kind of a tough call. There's definitely some potent AV from the Tenso going for what is kind of the full anti-vehicle loadout of the Tech Marine, which I don't feel you actually see that often, seeing Tech Marine players really just go full-on anti-vehicle. The Orbs of the Omnissiah being very similar to a Melt-A-Bomb. Actually, technically more similar to like a Haywire, but it's not targeted. It is more of a skill shot, so it can miss, but in most cases the area is big enough that you're usually not going to miss. Signum Armor, granting that marked target ability, you increase the damage that a unit takes by 40%, so when you're trying to take down a vehicle, getting that extra 40% damage. And this Meltagun. Meltagun, I don't feel it's the weapon you see most commonly from the Tech Marine, but it is the AV option for him. Bright Lance really caught out of position. Both of these Bright Lances. I mean, these Bright Lances really just can't fight these Scouts. They're just going to have to retreat. Grenade going to go in. Scout Squad. Oh, Grenade actually does kind of miss. Otherwise, I would say that that Guardian Weapon team would have been in quite a bit of trouble. Meanwhile, talking about trouble, Farseer definitely in trouble. So is this Autark. Autark. Okay. She'll be okay, as the Stern Guard veterans do have to pull back once they are being approached by the Reapers and the Grenade coming in from the Dire Avengers. Meanwhile, Reapers will just be shooting at long range, can outrange the Stern Guard veterans, as well as most melee squads, since they just have longer range. Meanwhile, the Warp Spider Exarch in quite a lot of trouble. He was hit by full auto from the Apothecary, but he's not quite taken down in retreat. Meanwhile, double Warp Spiders teleporting in. Certainly going to do a lot of damage to the Scouts. And we're going to see some Assault Marines being chased by the Banshees. One model is taken down, but only one model. That's all they get. Meanwhile, Apothecary Luckily, that should be a fine retreat path for him. He retreats with enough health. We are going to see the Warp Spider Exarch trying to use that Champion's Rope to tank all the damage from these two squads. Oh no, does he see it? I think he gets it out in time, but it's kind of close, especially when you're talking about Stern Guard veterans with that damage over time. Yeah, getting all the way down to 20 hit points. That was a pretty close call for the Warlock. All right, so Autarch now fully upgraded with the Executioner. Does have her energy shield, as we've seen before. Autarch jumps and unfortunately misses, but the Tactical Marine's going to be so overwhelmed anyway. In fact, those Tactical Marines, unfortunately, it looks like Tenso kind of lost track of them. He might even lose the squad here. Oh, the Banshees do not choose to continue the chase. Instead, they're going to be looking for this Dreadnought right now. This is a ranged Dreadnought, so it's not great at countering the Banshees, although the Banshee's not going for it. But here is a group teleport from Noisy. Where is that group teleport going? Quite a wind-up on that group teleport. He goes all the way over here. Oh, no! He goes right into a shotgun blast. That definitely wasn't ideal, but he will be able to focus on the Dreadnought anyway. So it's probably his intention all along. Dreadnought still being chased after by the Fire Dragons, but it does have Blessing of the Omnissiah to help keep it alive, and at some point they are just going to find themselves going into the stronghold for the Space Marines, where the turrets will deter the Howling Banshees from pressing much further. All right, Autarch can't just stand here tanking the damage from the Stern Guard veterans. She could jump on them if she wants, or she could also just walk up to them. Autarch, quite a fast unit, but not so tanky when marked target is on her. Shotgun Blast probably going to be used to knock over the Fire Dragons, and then that will be pretty much the end of their combat engagement here, and it will be a retreat for them. Back down here, we do see that upgrade on the Wraith Lord. It is going to be a Shuriken Cannon, which is generally the more common upgrade, in my opinion, just the better one. Even though, obviously, the two different weapon upgrades serve very different purposes, but I think the overall value out of the Shuriken Cannon on the Wraith Lord is quite a lot higher than the Bright Lance. Advanced healing coming out from the Apothecary. Meanwhile, this Wraith Lord getting pretty low, trying to get as far into melee with the Tactical Marines to tie them up. Now the Wraith Lord's in quite a lot of trouble. The Assault Marines will have to get out of there. The Tactical Marines will be forced to retreat with the Howling Banshees there. Terminators possibly trying to threaten the Wraith Lord, but the Howling Banshees are here as well. Terminators actually going to be switching over to the Lightning Claws. So I think part of the reasoning behind that is that they, even though there isn't really much in terms of heavy armor for them to deal with, they might just want to think about just the overwhelming DPS as well as the splash damage on the Lightning Claws being a way to just slice through those Banshees. Farseer going to go down again. Otherwise, the double Banshees against Thunderhammer Terminators, that would actually be a pretty bad time for the Thunderhammer Terminators. Grenade going to go in. Unfortunately, oh, that's not a regular grenade. That's an Orb of the Omnissiah. So that Orb of the Omnissiah, primarily you want to use that against vehicles, but as it says here, will also burn 100 energy from any unit caught in the blast. So it's not completely useless against infantry, but it's the real value of it is definitely more so against vehicles. Now, we did start out with a victory point lead from our Eldar players, but it has since definitely turned around. Meanwhile, the Warp Spiders not quite using their mobility as well this time as I had seen them previously. Found themselves getting jumped on. A nice special attack from the Warlock. Again, rocking that Jedi build, generally considered a pretty good answer to Assault Marines and by extension Vanguard veterans. But man, those Vanguard veterans actually losing 2 models right there. But eventually the Warlock will get overwhelmed. There's just a massive amount of range damage right here. So Warlock will be going down. So two downed Eldar commanders. But our Eldar players will be making their way here. Eventually, the Farseer is revived. She is back up, and almost goes down again. She might go down again. That's actually kind of crazy. Oh my God, 5. Okay, she's fine. Autarch going in again, though. The Autarch having trouble getting a lot done here against these double shotguns, and especially the Stern Guard veterans activating the No Fear, the double grenades on the Howling Banshees, absolutely nuking that squad right there. They're down to only 1 model. Grenade blast, shotgun blast. knocking over a bunch of Banshees yet again. Oh, wow. Seer Council out for Django. They're already at half health in this engagement right here. Meanwhile, the Warp Spiders, I think they teleported unnecessarily, and now they don't have a teleport to dodge away from the Assault Marines, who just jump on them. That shuts off the Warp Spider damage for quite a while. Eventually, they teleport again. But, man, oh, wow, things really not going well for the Seer Council in that engagement. In fact, things just generally not going well for Django. I don't think at this point, his army really just isn't well suited to fighting what he's up against, although part of it's also that there is more than one Space Marine player right here. Nevertheless, definitely some limitations of the double Warp Spiders right there. They're not going to be good against the Stern Guard veterans as well as the leveled tax. All right, Predator is moving in. Warp Spider X are going to go down as he does get jumped on and finished off. This is also a pretty bad situation for the Wraith Lord. I think the Wraith Lord goes down here. I mean, we've got a Predator shooting at it. We've got Tactical Marines shooting at it. I'm not entirely sure what the Warp Spiders are doing, but things are looking pretty rough for them, and that's going to be retreated Warp Spiders as well. And it looks like that's actually the end of the game. That will be a concede in favor of our Space Marine players. Game number 2 will be taking place on Katrin Purification Plant. Our first player, the Tenso, going to be continuing to play the Tech Marine. Katla will once again be on the Force Commander, and LocalghostUrOrders will be playing as the Apothecary. Their opponents, we've got 2 of our Eldar players subbing out, but Noisy will still be in here as the Warp Spider Exarch. Lokyo will be taking over as the Farseer in Game 2, and Ruthless at heart will be our Warlock player for this game. So, one of the more interesting Eldar custom Elite skins for Elite Mod. I don't exactly remember which one this is. I'm sure someone will just point it out in the comments, and I can always just check it by looking in the Army Painter. But for now, that Warlock... Oh no! That Destructor does barely anything. I don't know if it's just missed. Cover modifiers, just really negating it. But that was pretty rough there, not getting anything out of that Destructor. That's also the Warlock engaging by himself without the support of the Howling Banshees or the Dire Avengers. So, and he was up against pretty much, 3 units from the Tenso. So a little bit unfortunate to see that that Warlock just be forced off the field like that. Meanwhile, the rest of the squads now engaging the Space Marines. Howling Banshees in melee with attacks, certainly where they want to be, but a Shotgun Blast comes ready from the Tenso on those scouts. And that will be a lost engagement by Ruthless at heart in this lane. But over on the other side of the map, things are still looking a little rough for our Space Marine players. Katla once again losing the Force Commander there. So we'll need a revive at some point, I suppose. Force Commander roughly at the halfway point in the map. Tactical Marines trying to tank damage while being in green cover, but ultimately they'll just get overwhelmed by the massive amount of Dire Avengers, who themselves should get into the green cover. He will come out for the Tactical Marines. Oh no, this is some flanking Howling Banshees. Unfortunately, the Howling Banshees just a little bit too far behind enemy lines. Support is not close enough, and they'll find themselves needing to retreat out of there. Meanwhile, Tech Marine seems to be in cover right here. Some more green cover. Probably taking some shots at the power node, but eventually he is going to be forced off. It's just a retreat from him. He doesn't have anything like Bionics or the Mastercrafted Bolter to slow down those Howling Banshees to stay out on the field. We're going to see a Flamer upgrade out of Katla alongside a double tack build. Those Flamer attacks looking to go into melee. That Flamer doing nice area of effect damage on the Dire Avengers, but once they get in a little too far, Howling Banshees will come in to defend those Dire Avengers. It'll just be a retreat from that Tactical Marine squad. Revive does come in from local onto Katla's Force Commander. Meanwhile, the Tactical Marines trying to go see if they can get into melee with the Guardian Weapon team, but they just can't get there in time. Force Commander trying to do the same thing. He does actually just barely get around the firing arc in time. But the Guardian Weapon team also just backs up. And I think Katla just needs to get out of here. Yeah. Just the constant repositioning from Lokyo's Guardian Weapon team, pretty nicely done there. And nothing like a jump squad for just the easy, simple solution to it. Ranger squad going to be out. I think this is the first time I've seen Rangers in this series. I don't remember seeing any Rangers from last game. And Rangers are something that I do feel is quite strong against Space Marines. Since you have a lot of high-value targets to choose from in Tier 1, especially with only local going for Assault Marines, as Assault Marines being kind of the only real counter that, or maybe not the only, but I would say the best counter that Space Marines have in Tier 1 against Rangers, and even Rangers can micro around so that they can kind of play around the Assault Marines. But certainly the Rangers very powerful against the Tax, the Devastators, and the Scouts. Any shot that they get against Tax, Devs, and Scouts is going to be high value. Meanwhile, talking about high value, that's an entire Scout squad wiped. Katla losing a Scout squad, now losing Tactical Marine models. Oh no. Howling Banshees losing a few models themselves, though. Shotgun Scouts. Oh no, no, that's so rough for those Shotgun Scouts. They were going in looking for a grenade. Unfortunately for them, they were knocked over by the Kinetic Pulse from the Rangers. Another great thing about them, another great reason to get them, that Kinetic Pulse, just a long-range, targeted knockback ability, very similar to the Shotgun Scout Shotgun Blast, except it has sniper range instead of shotgun range, which is literally about 3 times as much. Yeah, that Guardian Weapon team going to have to go there, as we do see the double Devastators out of the Tenso. I think, yeah, both of them equipped with Vengeance rounds, as we see them with those, just those loud, fiery bullets, or rather, loud, fiery bolts, excuse me. Just raining some terror out there. Meanwhile, this Apothecary finding himself in a bad situation. He's going to experience a little terror as well. The terror of these Howling Banshees. Howling Banshees still going after the Assault Marines. The Assault Marines, oh no. The Assault Marines are going to get wiped. Oh my god. Meanwhile, up here, we do have the Eldar. This is Ruthless at heart here. He had the one engagement earlier on where he really struggled against... The one engagement early on that he did not manage well against the Tenso and lost, but ever since then, it seems like he's actually kind of dominating here. Gets around 1 firing arc. Dire Avenger is going to take some damage from the Devastators, but the Devastators stop shooting because they will get tied up by the Warlock, but the Warlock is going to find himself in the firing arc of another Devastator squad, so he just has to retreat. It also looks like Katla's moving over here to double Ruthless at heart. Trying to see what kills he can get on Ruthless at heart in retreat. Sorry, she. Katla is a she. But let's move on. Oh no, Tactical Marines once again out of cover while Dire Avengers and Warp Spider Exarch are in cover.
Beware, the enemy has breached our landing zone.
Meanwhile, Dire Avengers looking for that back cap, then one of those models just skating back on over. While these Tactical Marines, wow, that's a drop pod, scares off the Dire Avengers and also enables them to take back their victory point. Double tax for Katla. No triple tax for Katla because this one was dropped via drop pod. Unfortunately, the multiple tack build does not really have much in terms of a way of controlling things like these Banshees or the Warlock. Or even the Farseer. They just kind of gotta hope that they'll do enough damage to those melee units before they get enraged. Or before they get into melee, that is. Warlock gets a leap into combat. No upgrades on this Warlock. Devastator Marine's going to be knocked down by the Kinetic Pulse, but there is another Devastator Marine squad behind them. Just will set up. That might be enough. But the Howling Banshees. The Warlock was drawing the fire of the Devastator Marine squad. Grenades will miss entirely. So yeah, the Warlock was drawing the fire of the Devastator Marine squad, and then the Howling Banshees were able to speed their way on in there. Was either fleet of foot or also could have been swift movement. Wasn't able to take the time to distinguish which speed buff they got, but you know, Eldar just have those choices. Meanwhile, Doom will be put on these Tactical Marines from Katla. Howling Banshees totally oppressing these Tactical Marines. 1 tack model down. Can we make it 2? No. Force Commander right here, does he have Battlecry? Well, whether he does or doesn't, that'll be a special attack right there, and the Howling Banshees will need to retreat anyway because the support fire from the Tier 2 tack squad with the Sergeant will be a little bit too much for the Howling Banshees to deal with. So Force Commander's still in here. He's got Defend activated. He's going to try to knock the Dire Avengers off. Oh my god, the Dire Avengers, they might pay for that cap with their lives. They do. So it's a triple cap for the Dire Avengers, but they pay for it with their lives. We're going to see an Autarch call in. Wow, the Autarch grenades actually spread out quite a bit to cover both the Scouts as well as the Devastator Marines. Autarch, though, certainly has to be careful about that Devastator Marine squad that's firing at her. She will jump out instead of in, as she already is down to about half of her hit points. Meanwhile, Warlock this time, we're going to see, of course, we have a different player here. This is Ruthless at heart, not, it was Django the other game. So we're seeing a different build. He's going to be going for the Warp Throw. Oh, and he's also going to be going for the Tech Marine right there. Going to knock him down and incapacitate him. So Warp Throw does make some sense here when you're dealing with a Devastator Marine squad, especially this heavy Devastator setup. Ruthless at heart will be able to just pull one of them forward. He can also hard punish it if he can combo that Warp Throw, which will be used right here, but it will be dodged, or rather just they'll retreat and be immune to the Warp Throw. And in fact, he was actually trying to set up for the grenade toss from the Warp Throw. You can combo the Warp Throw with grenades from the Dire Avengers, or even just the Howling Banshees, just engaging on whichever squad gets pulled by the Warp Throw. Shotgun Scouts moving in, kind of being drawn a little far forward because the Howling Banshees, instead of going forward, are kind of going to the side, and those Scouts will find themselves getting forced off by the Dire Avengers, putting a lot of damage pressure on them. Dire Avengers themselves will get forced off because this double Devastator overall is kind of working against Ruthless. But what's not working at the moment for the Space Marines is the victory points. It's 475 for our Eldar players, and we're also at a time where, again, 475 to 120, and we see our Space Marine players committing to the right side of the map. This is a rotation by Katla to the right side of the map, and for what reason? I mean, with those flamer attacks, there's a pretty good chance that they, and this double, there's a pretty good chance that they can get the Generator Bash, but they're at a time when victory points are really starting to matter more. So they'll they'll scare off the Rangers. They'll get a Generator Bash here. It's probably going to be a full Generator Bash, or is it? Can this defense from Ruthless be enough? He is by himself at the moment, though. Assault Marines will jump in. Going to be a Warp Throw. Warp Throw pulls him in, but he mistimes the grenade throw with the Warp Throw. Grenade was a little bit too early. I think he's kind of just trying to anticipate it. He's overthinking the combo a little bit. He's trying to, like, set up the grenade before the Warp Throw even happens. I think you kind of just need to do the Warp Throw and then just follow up with a grenade. All right, meanwhile, I think that's Swift Movement activated. Oh, could have, I'm not even sure. Hard to tell, but I think I saw some kind of speed buff put on the Banshees, as well as, well, just about everything, to try to take out the Force Commander, but the Force Commander, he was kind of saved by the suppression from the Devastator Marines, and in the end, oh wow, not even a single generator taken down. So that's a big, big loss by our Space Marine players. I mean, even though, like, they didn't suffer any significant squad losses there. I don't think they suffered any squad losses, but they gave up so much time, so many victory points. They went for a Generator Bash, did not get it, and at the same time, that meant victory points were ticking down against them at a time when they don't have many to spare. Meanwhile, this Librarian apparently just not being targeted by the Guardian Weapon Team, but oh my god, that is so bad, getting hit by the friendly fire. He's going to try to activate a Force Barrier. Still looking a little, oh, but the Howling Banshee still getting that chain knockback. The Librarian might be going down. He's down to 20 hit points. It was looking really dicey for that Librarian, but I think he might just barely be making out alive. Howling Banshees here could actually target the Librarian, but they're going for the Tactical Marines instead. They do pick up some models, but the Librarian just barely managed to get out of there alive. It is now a double cap for our Space Marine players, but it won't last very long, as that was a one engagement for the Eldar at the contested victory point, and Lokyo will just be taking it right back for his team. Meanwhile, this is a Falcon. This is now a Tier 3 Falcon. By saying Tier 3 Falcon, of course, the Falcon is a Tier 2 unit, but I say a Tier 3 Falcon because it has the energy field upgrade, which comes in Tier 3. Makes it quite a lot tankier. Also gives you, aside from the tankiness, you get on-the-field sustainability because, well, technically Falcon always has on-the-field sustainability, but it becomes a little bit more independent because the energy shield or field can regenerate without having a unit to support, without needing a unit to support the Falcon. You don't need to repair the energy shield. If you deactivate it, it will just regenerate. So, meanwhile, Space Marines actually failed to get a generator bash. It'll be the Eldar who get the generator bash this time. Whirlwind shooting out missiles, just knocking them over, but ultimately not achieving much at this time by itself. And now the Whirlwind potentially a little bit too far forward. Oh no, the Devastator Marines, they're just walking into the Banshees. Something was killed there. I didn't see what. A bunch of +12s. I think that's one Devastator Marine squad. That might be two dead Devastator Marine squads. Soon it might even be a dead Whirlwind. Oh my god, but some big plasma grenades going. I don't even remember what it was, but we also see the dead Whirlwind. Tenso, unfortunately, kind of falling apart in this engagement. Might be losing attack squad here. Indeed, he does. He very much fell apart. Ruthless at heart, being pretty ruthless. Librarian will be using the Force Bearer to knock over that Warp Spreader Exarch yet again. Once again, getting the Power Blades from Noisy. Also getting the Anti-Grav Grenade. That's a fun one. Also one that I feel you don't see very often. Can also be used to combo with regular Dire Avenger Grenades. But that is going to be the win. This time for the Eldar, evening out the series at 1-1. Game number 3 will take place on Calderis Refinery. Local Ghost once again as the Apothecary. Katla still as the Force Commander, but changing outfits. And Tenso will also be on the Tech Marine again. Their opponents, we're going to keep the players from last game. Obviously working out a little bit better for them. Lokyo going to be playing as the Farseer. Noisy, once again as the Warp Spreader Exarch, wherever he is. And Ruthless at heart will actually be switching over to the Farseer, despite actually doing quite well on the Warlock last game. Not too much happening on this side. Lokyo just going to be looking to get his natural victory point. Dire Avengers will move up to put some pressure on that Tech Marine, who will back off from the power node, since he doesn't have any cover there, and he'll go back into some green cover, those pipes. A little bit more might be happening on this side. Dire Avengers going to be focusing on the Apothecary, who will just move back, while the Farseer looks to move in. Farseer looking to move in, tie something up, probably the Tactical Marines, as those will do the most damage. But this is Katla coming over to support with the Force Commander. Force Commander looking to see if the Force Commander can perhaps use Battlecry to disrupt the Howling Banshees, but the Howling Banshees just straight up running away from the Force Commander so that they won't get hit by the knockback. Eventually, though, Howling Banshees might get overwhelmed. They're still at 5 models, but I don't think they keep the 5 models for very long. Wow, they might get out of there with all 5 models unless Katla can pick off one here. No, doesn't get it with that Chainsword swing. Meanwhile, oh man, a lot started happening on this side once I left it. Howling Banshee is getting really close to going down, but I think the lead model is so far away. But at 1 health, oh no, does not make it out alive. I jinxed them. Meanwhile, the Farseer should be fine, right? Should be fine, yeah. Farseer is fine. Double cap for our Eldar players, and actually a lot of victory points already ticking down in their favor. This Force Commander kind of by himself. And the Tenso will be pushing forward quite a bit, though. Oh, wow. Triple Scouts. The Triple Scouts. Triple Scouts are quite interesting, especially this one. Or rather, this one. Color scheme's confusing me between these players. 3 models lost on this Scout squad right here that you can just barely see. While these tacks, I don't think these tacks are fully in cover. Not only they're fully in cover, wow, they just straight up retreat there just because the Farseer is approaching like that. She doesn't even do a lot of damage. But just realizing that once those once that Farseer is getting into melee, they're probably not getting, just probably not getting out of there. And the attacks will just be tied up indefinitely. But Tenso doing quite well on his side. He'll get some shotgun upgrades, some sergeant upgrades, really pushing Lokyo back. Lokyo needs to be a little bit careful there. But here is a flank. Flank will be coming from Noisy. But I think Tenso can handle this flank. Yeah, and now the Banshees have to move back. Oh my god, the Banshees, they lose a model. This is actually very much a failed flank out of Noisy, with Tenso just turning around, just taking advantage of all the range damage he has, just doing so much damage to those Banshees as they try to approach. And even if they do get close enough to get into melee range, Tenso still would have had a shotgun blast ready for them. So victory points starting to be evened out a little bit, but now will actually be put at a 1-to-1 and will be stalled out for the moment. Assault Marine's going to be jumping in. It will just be an instant retreat from the Howling Banshees, who look to be getting out of there with all 5 models yet again. Meanwhile, over here, our Rangers talking about Exodites. Scouts also getting out of there with all 4 models. Going to be another double cap for the Eldar, so victory points once again ticking down in their favor. Tactical Marines looking to move up for a generator bash, but they are being harassed by the Rangers. Rangers are infiltrated. Force Commander's looking to move up, seeing if he can do something about the Rangers, but they should be able to get off one more shot. They kind of, I think they back up a little too much. I think they were showing a little bit too much respect for this Force Commander. But eventually the attack squad with the Flamer is forced off without actually getting any generator bashing done. Rangers themselves also going to be forced off. Different squad of Rangers, this one out of Noisy rather than from Ruthless. Dire Avengers, oh man, these Dire Avengers, anytime when the Dire Avengers are not in cover is going to be really, really rough for them, especially when they don't have an aspect. They only have 100 hit points per model. It's the same as Guardsmen. Farseer from Ruthless at heart looking to fight the Apothecary, but the Apothecary instead going for the Rangers. This is a strange one for the Apothecary, yeah. Especially since he's got a ranged weapon, he's not going to do a whole lot. Actually, 19 melee DPS on a ranged model is actually not bad. It's actually the same as a Tactical Marine now that I think about it. So Eldar looking to be taking the double cap yet again. As we do see this Tech Marine right here will snipe one of those Dire Avenger models with the high-powered shot from the Mastercrafted Bolter. Great weapon, particularly against Eldar. Grenade will be thrown. Oh no, the grenade is a complete miss. And with no more grenades ready. Oh no, there is a grenade! And it's going to hit the tax, but I don't think it's going to get any of the models there. Rangers, meanwhile, focusing on those scouts from a distance. Rangers might want to start backing up, though, as Assault Marines are looking to jump in. Although the Assault Marines have to prioritize the Guardian Wep team, still, this Ranger squad... okay. I wanted to see a little bit more movement from the Ranger. In the end, it looked like it didn't matter that much. Oh, wow, the Force Commander does not go down there. Yeah, a little bit surprised there. Guardian Weapon team will retreat out of there with only a few hit points. And by a few, I mean 40. That's my definition of a few, apparently. Dire Avengers absolutely lose that fight, even if they dodge the grenade. There's too many scouts here. The scouts can just focus on one of those Dire Avengers. Instead, the scouts kind of... Okay, they're in cover, which is a pretty good position for them. Dire Avengers possibly looking for another grenade, but here is more support. Grenade will be thrown, catches the Farseer, but this could be a wipe on the scouts, depending on where the models are. That will be one of the scouts down for the Tenso. So it's still a double cap for our Eldar players. Looking pretty strong in this game, too. Game 3, I mean. Seeing some reinforcements. Not too much in terms of units from our Space Marine players, and victory points continue to tick down against them. They'll slow things down a little bit with this decap from the scouts, but the scouts will just need to get out of there. Looks like they might get out of there. Yeah, they won't lose a model, so good for them. Meanwhile, Howling Banshees, we got some scouts trying to guard against their blades. I swear, scouts are some of the loudest some of the loudest units in this game. You'll just hear them from anywhere across the map, often telegraphing what they're going to do, whether it's infiltrating and saying, "See, but do not be seen," or throwing a grenade and letting the opponent know with "Let fly." Meanwhile, down here, scouts. There it is! There it is! Speak of the devil. Alright. Scouts, though, you know, they're proving their worth here. They'll win this fight. Dire Avengers will just get into the webway, and the webway will also be taken out. Assault Marines jumping in. Oh, no. Noisy, what are you doing here? Double Dire Avengers with no aspect will just get jumped on by Assault Marines. Really tough day for them. These double Dire Avengers, yeah, I mean, with no aspect, they're just so squishy. I mean, I guess just the idea behind the idea behind, you know, not upgrading something like that is just trying to save resources. But I feel like it's, I don't know, it feels like so far into the game that I feel like you should kind of just get it. Like, I understand, like, throughout Tier 1 where you might not get it early on in Tier 1. You might not even get it for any of Tier 1 just to try to save on the resources, but in the long run, I think you want the aspect on the Dire Avengers. Otherwise, they're basically like a 5-man guardsman squad in terms of their squishiness. They do more damage, though. Meanwhile, chunks being taken out of that War Spider Exarch's health from that Force Commander, fully upgraded. We're going to have Thunderhammer, Artificer Armor, and the Teleporter Pack. The intention behind that is to just aggressively teleport forward, activate Battle Cry, and then you're just disrupting. Usually you're looking to be knocking down 2-3 units at a time with that. Also highly effective against Banshees. Doom will be put on the Tactical Marines, but this is a 1 engagement for the Tenso, as our Space Marine players trying to stabilize, and a triple cap is something that would help them out a lot at this time. But the Falcon's going to move out for Noisy, and with this Falcon from Noisy, he's looking to reclaim the contested victory point. Looks like, is this a hollow field put down by the Rangers, just infiltrating a bunch of units in an area. The Rangers Falcon will actually move out of that area for the moment. Assault Marine's going to jump in. Oh, no, that's Assault Marines. They get this. Oh, but the Assault Marines, it's actually a trap. That was actually not as bad for the Assault Marines as I thought. Grenade will go in. Oh, but that's not just any regular grenade. Those are the Purification Vials out of the Apothecary, which we've actually already seen used like 2 times before. Just haven't called it out yet. Those Purification Vials can be pretty nice, doing damage over time. Less front-loaded damage than a Scout Grenade, but again, you get that damage over time. And we'll talk about a regular grenade. That's a regular plasma grenade from the Dire Avengers, and this will be Lokyo getting forced off the field. Out of our Eldar players, does feel like Lokyo is having kind of the biggest challenge facing up against his opponent, the Tenso. Quite a capable player. Sneaky Scouts, what are you looking for? Are you just looking for sneaky wreck decaps? Is that really what we're doing here? I guess so. So Noisy will rotate, Noisy being the mid lane player. You just got that big responsibility of rotating when your teammates need it. Also means, oh wow, what a long range plasma cannon shot. Does also mean sometimes playing in the mid lane, sometimes, oh, nice plasma cannon shot again. Sometimes it's a little bit more demanding of your micro if you also want to split your army on 2 different sides of the map. So Space Marines have evened out the victory points somewhat. It's now only about 100 victory point deficit, so still a significant lead for the Eldar, but the Space Marines still maintain the double cap, and soon look like they'll actually resume the triple cap. So Dark Reapers out for Ruthless at heart. Obviously these Dark Reapers, certainly a lot of strong things about the Dark Reapers. It's interesting with the Dark Reapers, where I've definitely seen faction wars where people are saying, oh man, these Eldar players, they just need to get Dark Reapers. They just need to get Dark Reapers. And I mean, certainly there are a lot of strong things about Dark Reapers, particularly against Space Marines. That long-range Inferno damage does bonus damage against heavy infantry. Dark Reapers also have a, I believe their baseline range is 48, which is better than standard. The standard range for range squads rather, is 38. So that means that Dark Reapers also outrange most range squads in the entire game. And that being said, you know, you don't necessarily always see the Reapers. And I
I think there are some good reasons to it. I think compositionally, sometimes it can be hard to make them fit into your build. Now, in a 3v3 game, though, 3v3s inherently give you a little bit more build flexibility than a 1v1 game. So I definitely think it's worth it for at least one of your players, especially in, in a faction war setting where everyone's going to be playing the same faction. I do think it's worth it for at least one of your Eldar players to get a Dark Reaper squad. But I don't think it's as simple as just get Dark Reapers for head. Purification Vials thrown in, threatening the Banshees a lot. Banshees need to be really careful here. They're trying to see if they can get a kill on the Apothecary. They do get it. Okay, Banshees actually really made that work. They got Assault Marine kills. They killed the Apothecary as well. So that worked. Victory points are actually now really, really close to being evened out for the Space Marines. 258 to 272. Altar call in, going to be dropping in on those Tactical Marines. But this is not looking good for our Eldar players as the Terminators have hit the field. And Terminators, I do think, are quite a challenge for our Eldar players to deal with. So now is even more a time when, like, Lokyo doesn't have... Yeah, Lokyo's build is not very well equipped to deal with the Terminators at all. I think now's a good time for him to actually see if he can maybe put some Dark Reapers out on the field. Certainly, Terminators are one of the good, arguments in favor of getting Dark Reapers. Terminators might be able to finish off the Howling Banshees. If they should be able to finish off that Howling Banshee squad in range. They might be better. Oh, they might have been better. Oh, they do get it. For a second there, it looked like the Howling Banshees were going to get away, and I was going to say it might be better for them to stop moving so that they can get full accuracy from standing still. All right, Assault Marine's going to be jumping in. And Predator Tank is here from LocalghostUrOrders. Going to be upgrading to that extra armor pretty early on. Victory points now pretty even. Still technically in favor of the Eldar, but for how much longer? Plasma Dev shot goes in. Going to be a complete miss. These Vanguard veterans, meanwhile, finding themselves with a second jump, but they don't use it on the Guardian weapon team. I'm not entirely sure what they were thinking right there. I don't know if maybe... Oh, yeah, that was not going to work out. I don't know if they were maybe thinking they wanted to put more pressure on the Falcon with their power weapons. But once the Dire Avengers got out, that was probably when they knew that they were kind of screwed there. Predator trying to chase off this Falcon, seeing if he can finish it off. Falcon does not have the energy shield, in part because Noisy is not in Tier 3, but our Space Marine players are in Tier 3, and in fact, most of our Eldar players are as well. It's only Noisy who's not there yet. So, Bright Lance is actually upgraded for Noisy. Alright, oh, that grenade, that's going to be a nice grenade. Unfortunately, it was mostly just not reacted to, especially from the Warp Spiders, who could have very easily just teleported away from that. Another grenade's going to go in if this is not dodged. Alright, it doesn't quite hit the Guardian weapon team head on, because if that grenade had been placed well enough, it should have actually been a wipe on the Guardian weapon team right there. Wow, our Eldar players actually really, really running out of steam here. I mean, there was a point when they had a victory point lead of almost 200. Now they're starting to trail in victory points, and it seems like they're losing engagements left and right. Unfortunately, letting the game go on to this point and letting the Space Marines into Tier 3 is proving to be a big problem for them. Terminators, again, kind of difficult for them to deal with. That's why we actually now see 2 squads of Dark Reapers, and this is the point of the game where I think the Dark Reapers are a lot more warranted, where I don't fear... Certainly the Dark Reapers, they are certainly very good against Tactical Marines, but I don't feel that they're really a necessity. Whereas once Terminators are out on the field, that's when Dark Reapers become a necessity. Oh man, there will be something going down right there. Maybe you could argue that you could use Seer Council instead, but of course the Dark Reaper is going to be a little bit safer. Warp Spiders teleport away. I don't think that Plasma Cannon shot actually would have connected with them at all. Oh, wow! The Falcon actually nearly being taken out there by the Cyclone missile launcher. Predator seeing if he can finish the job, but does have to get back out of there. It looks like we're going to have some repairs, though. Trying to think right here. Oh, wow! Look at this Predator. It's just going all the way in. I think it actually... Yeah, it can... It doesn't have to go. It can finish... It can finish the Falcon. Oh, no. What happened there? This is Tenso. Tenso, that's kind of strange. Like, because he actually could have done that. I guess he just got scared. And wasn't entirely sure what he was dealing with. Oh, no. Squad's just getting wiped there. Noisy is actually calling a GG because the victory points... My God. The Eldar players just couldn't take back the victory points for, like, the past 400 victory points. So Space Marines will take game number 3. Game number 4 will take place on Hades Waste. Our first player for the Space Marines, Local Ghost Your Orders on his Apothecary. Tenso staying as that Tech Marine, and Katla will still be playing as the Force Commander, but going back to the Ultramarines. Meanwhile, their opponents, Lokyo will be playing as the Farseer yet again, Noisy on the Warp Spider Exarch, and Ruthless at heart staying with the Farseer this time. So nice big map here. Hades Waste we've got. Tech Marine moving up. Tech Marine feels like the Tech Marine is hunting right now, looking for some game. But he might be just getting a victory point. Just kidding. This is a requisition point instead. So no action just yet. Space Marines not going for their natural victory point just yet. Eldar a little bit faster to get there. Eldar, in fact, already have the contested victory point. Seems like a few shots have been exchanged on other sides of the map. This side of the map in particular, and also in the middle of the map. Tech Marine not in cover, so we'll just move up to some cover. Some green cover definitely gives them a mass advantage over those Dire Avengers. I mean, the Tech Marine head-to-head against the Dire Avenger, it's a massive win for the Tech Marine. And he was supported by the Scouts right there. Okay, actually, this is a 2-on-2 fight, I think. Yeah. Farseer looking to tie up the Tactical Marines, but she's already pretty low. The Apothecary is even lower. He has to use the heal on himself, which also means that the Scouts need to retreat, which means now there's no... Actually, there is a potential shotgun upgrade, but it's coming from a different player. This is coming out of the Tenso. Does manage to knock over those Howling Banshees, but Scouts realize they're in danger of losing a model, so they go in for force melee against the Dire Avengers. I think the Scouts can actually kind of compete in terms of range damage with the Dire Avengers, but more what they're looking for there is actually just to slow things down. Both the Dire Avengers and the Scouts do less damage in melee than they do in range, so they wanted a fight where they could just stall without losing models. Or at least make it less likely that they'll lose models. Shotgun Blast used on the Dire Avengers means that he doesn't have it for the Howling Banshees. Even if he did, I think he was just overwhelmed there, so it will be a retreat from the Tenso. Howling Banshees, meanwhile, will take down one Space Marine generator, and it looks like they may get out of there without a single model loss. So good for Ruthless at heart. Definitely an economical win for him. 500 victory points to 433, so it is our Eldar players, or it... Yeah, it's our Eldar players who are in the lead at the moment. Warp Spider Exarch finding himself out of cover against those Scouts. So we see those Scouts taking relatively minimal damage from the Warp Spider Exarch when they are in cover like that. They're mostly taking damage from those Rangers taking some shots at them. Scouts once again moving out. Need to get in that cover, though. But of course, they're getting out in cover in part because the Eldar keep kiting away, and those scouts leading in. Oh no, these scouts here from the Tenso, they're going to have to retreat. Meanwhile, I'm just realizing Tenso has another triple scout build. So he's got double shotguns, and then he's got one squad of bolter scouts, but that one has a sergeant. He's getting sergeants all around. This is some heavy scout investment. Farseer gets a nice special attack, but she is low on health. Assault Marines will be jumping away, though. Obviously, don't want to risk losing a model there. They even got a heal from the Apothecary, which was actually very unnecessary. I mean, they already got out of there with all 3 models. Oh no, but the Tactical Marines, they go right into the Howling Banshees. Howling Banshees will be, obviously, certainly scaring off those tacks. However, they themselves will need to retreat. If they lose a model here, though, it's kind of an economic loss for them, but so far they don't. There's still a few shots thrown in, but I don't think it'll get them. Looks like quite a few models died right here. The Dire Avenger squad's in so much trouble. 1 hit point. Oh, it does eventually go down. For a second there, it looked like the suppression from the Howling Banshees might have saved that Dire Avenger squad, but in the end, it didn't even matter. So Dire Avengers die. Howling Banshees get forced off. Tenso's still here. Does he have an answer, though, to this Guardian Weapon team? Grenades coming out from the scouts again. Once again, that let fly. Then he can just... Oh, my God. The Guardian Weapon team taking so much damage. There's not another grenade for them, so they're just looking to see... They finish off the Guardian Weapon team just chasing with the grenades. Not chasing with the grenades, chasing with the shotguns. Meanwhile, down here, what are these guys doing so far away from home? They might... Actually, this could be a good position here. They might be able to, like, get a nice punishment on the Tenso. It depends what they can do. This is actually looking like a pretty good setup. Put pressure on the scouts with the range damage. Oh, no. If anything, yeah, I don't think he should have aggressed with the Howling Banshees there. Because the Howling Banshees, they would just get shotgun blast, whereas I really need it to be like the Dire Avengers putting pressure on the scouts with range damage, and the Howling Banshees just getting ready for the retreat path. All right, Warp Spider Exarch will take the victory point for the moment. Oh, an Apothecary is dead pretty far behind enemy lines. So I highly, highly doubt we're going to see a revive from a friendly commander. Local Ghost, not too far away, though, from being able to use Laraman's Blessing, which I think should be what he should do. At this point, I think it's more worth it for him to spend the red on reviving his commander than spend Requisition to revive his commander. Because I don't think there's any way that Tenso or Katla get there. Not unless they push really, really hard and, like, push together with... one of them would need to, like, push together with Local to get that far. All right, infiltration coming out of the Farseers. Oh! Wow. Totally called here by Katla. I guess just knowing what's up, just knowing the infiltration would be coming from the webway. Probably, possibly even saw them first or something before they infiltrated. Because that infiltration absolutely got no value. Meanwhile, we are going to see Lokyo pushing up again, looking to find more generator bashing opportunities here. One has already been taken down, and I mean, there's not much answer to this at the moment. Scouts trying to do the same thing on the other side, but a Warp Spider Exarch is going to slow them down. Completely unupgraded Warp Spider Exarch out of Noisy. Still a little bit early, so we might still see something. Obviously, he's been favoring those. He's been favoring the Power Blades, which is kind of interesting. I guess I kind of understand it in the sense that the Warp Spider Exarch's damage is probably a little bit his range damage, especially his piercing range damage, probably a little bit less valuable against Space Marines than against many of the other races in the game because there's so much heavy armor. But I mean, can still certainly get a lot of value against the Scouts. Might just be looking to be able to put pressure on the Tactical Marines by teleporting into melee with them, although he doesn't have that yet, so you know, I could just be totally wrong. Meanwhile, Force Commander will go down for Katla again. Katla saving up for, I don't know, finally does activate Tier 2. For a second there, I was thinking saving up for Tier 3. Maybe saving up for Tier 1, for Tier 2, and Tier 3 at the same time. All right, Eldar pushing back out, but the Space Marines do get the double cap at the moment. Rangers moving forward. But anytime they set up, Space Marines will just be kiting back away from them. There's going to be some more infiltration coming out of the webway. But eventually the infiltration does not last. What are these? What's with these backcapping scouts? All right, Assault Marine's going to jump in. Might be able to pick up another Ranger model, but the kinetic pulse from the other Ranger squad will just stuff that out. And that's just going to be a retreat there? That feels like a really unnecessary retreat. Might have kind of been accidental. I mean, if anything, the TAC should have retreated. And the Assault Marines not so much. Meanwhile... Oh! Double grenades, I think. Only just caught that at the end, but either way, those grenades taking out the Guardian weapon team. My God. This build from Tenso is actually kind of scary. The triple shotgun scouts with the sergeant. I mean, that's actually a huge amount of range damage. Very close range. But I mean, as far as like Tenso is concerned, like Howling Banshees might as well be useless against him. Like, he's got so much range damage to focus them down before they can get into melee. And if they ever even get close enough to melee, he's got 3 shotgun blasts ready and waiting. All right, so Tier 2 units will be coming around. Noisy getting a Wraith Lord. Looks like Lokyo is going to be getting a Wraith Lord as well, and we will also see the Dark Reapers coming in behind the Wraith Lord from Noisy. So choosing to prioritize that this game. So even going more into it, so I mean, we are seeing the Wraith Lord out of Lokyo as well. We don't see a Tier 2 unit out of Ruthless at heart. So part of the reason why the Reapers aren't necessarily just like an insta-purchase is that, you know, when you're going to Tier 2, you always have to prepare for the possibility of your opponent getting a vehicle, and you need to be ready to respond to it. And in that regard, Dark Reapers are one of the weakest Tier 2 purchases available. I mean, obviously, there's certainly other things that they're strong at, but just because of the fact that you have to prepare for a vehicle in Tier 2 is one of the big things that I think makes Dark Reapers not an insta-purchase in many cases. Meanwhile, this multi-melted Dreadnought getting a little bit too close. I don't think the multi-melted Dreadnought really does not want to be in melee with the Wraith Lord. Oh my God, big engagement going on right here. A lot going on. Multi-melted Dreadnought in melee with the Wraith Lord. Again, it does not want to be there, and it is losing at this point. But it does have Blessing of the Omnissiah active on it. Autarch has also been called in. Meanwhile, Lokyo is saving up a lot of requisition. I feel like probably another generator could be put down somewhere for the Eldar. I would look over to the farm, but obviously far more interesting things are going on at the moment. These double Wraith Lord trying to chase down the multi-melted Dreadnought. Now, especially the Wraith Lords right here. Oh, we are going to see the Wraith Lord from Lokyo go for the Bright Lance.
We shall make it so.
So Bright Lance on the Wraith Lord. I typically don't like it as much as the Shuriken Cannon. Now, the thing is that, again, these two upgrades serve completely different purposes. One giving you some nice anti-infantry damage, the other one being strictly anti-vehicle. But typically, I believe the Shuriken just gets more value. Just the persistent range damage over time against infantry on the platform that is the Wraith Lord, it being a walker, it being relatively tanky. Whereas the Bright Lance on the Wraith Lord is quite a bit more situational. You give up a lot of the ranged anti-infantry capabilities of the Wraith Lord. And it's also a little bit weak for its purpose. Apothecary will probably get out of there alive. Howling Banshee still looking to see if they can do something about that. They'll go for the Tactical Marines here. I was going to say, do they not have a War Shout ready? Now they use it. Assault Marines actually miss, although technically Vanguard veterans. Oh, man. Doom is put on the Vanguard veterans, and if it weren't for the Predator, I think the Banshees could have actually stayed in that fight, but, well, the Predator was here. The Predator was there, and it was just doing so much damage to the Banshees that eventually they needed to get out of there. We're going to see the Melta on the... We're going to Melta on the Tech Marine yet again. So it's a relatively sensible choice here, since there is quite a lot of vehicle armor to be dealt with. Oh, man. And we might see... This is going to be a quick end to this Wraithlord. It's been snared by the Las Cannon Devastator, and then you got the follow-up from the Las Cannon Predator. So that is one dead Wraithlord. We got another Wraithlord, one that is not so dead, but for how much longer? As we do see, Predator's not moving over there to help with this. Instead, Predator's going to be looking to do more of a generator bash, as they did put down generators like I said they could have, but now their generator farm is under threat, so that's looking kind of rough for them. Okay, once again, we got the multi-melted Dreadnought in melee with the Wraithlord, but oh my god, the Las Cannon positioning has just always been on point from the Tenso, and our Eldar players do not have something ready to dislodge it. And our Space Marine players also having plenty of follow-up to it. Tech Marine does go down. Double grenades will go in. They're not being dodged. Scout Squad will get out of there alive, though, despite eating 2 grenades. Warp Spreader Exarch, not so lucky, will go down, but in an easy position for a revive. Warp Spider's managing to just put in a lot of range damage. Assault Marine's going to be in retreat here. Vanguard. Oh, no, this one's actually Assault Marines. Wow, rather aggressive teleport from the Warp Spiders. They could get force meleeed. Oh, but the Howling Banshees are here as well. They will, of course, we're looking for a Haywire on the Dreadnought, but it doesn't look like there's going to be enough to follow up with it. Dreadnought is also getting repairs. Yeah, this is not working out for those Warp Spiders, losing some models there. Might have even lost an Exarch, but I'm not sure if they had one in the first place. But the contested victory point is not owned by anyone at this point, so victory point's completely stalled out. Man, Predator backing up, exposing rear armor right into a Guardian weapon team. Takes a lot of damage in the process, but I think with the rest of this approach they can anyway. Shotgun Scouts potentially in trouble, but I think just barely get out of there alive. Autark continuing to go in. Fire Dragons moving in to try to put some threat on the vehicles, but there's a lot of infantry in their way, and eventually they will have to retreat. Of course, Angels of Death was used as well, but it's not a one engagement for our Space Marine players. More Dark Reaper shots going in on the Vanguard veterans. And I think a squad was killed there. I think it was a scout squad from LocalghostUrOrders. As he does not have a scout squad at present, and he's going to need one to repair his Predator. A double jump from the Vanguard veterans. Oh no, what is this? Oh no, that was not the play for them. Oh, that's one Vanguard model down. Decent chance he loses a second one, but maybe not. All right, Autark will jump in. Assault Marines jump as well, and getting a knockback. Oh man, nice double knockback from the staggered jump out of the Assault Marines. I mean, that's not even something that you can reliably control, but it was something that was very, very helpful in that particular engagement. So interesting to see all the focus that we have on the Vanguards in this series. Quite a few of them. I would not personally look at the Vanguards as really being super high priority against Eldar. I mean, it doesn't... It's not like it hurts or it's bad, but it just doesn't... Again, that basically, it's just in my opinion that I don't see them as super high priority. Anyway, what is hurting is all this melta damage, or rather fusion damage, from those fire dragons buffed by Crackshot from the Warp Spider Exarch. So that will be one dead Dreadnought. Dark Reapers opening fire on the Stern Guard veterans. All right, meanwhile, Tactical Marine's actually going to be suppressed. I think that's from the pinning fire of the Dark Reapers, then find themselves getting shot at by the Fire Prism. Fire Prism getting some knockback, actually some friendly knockback there on the Farseer. Fully upgraded Farseer here. Singing Spear, Armor of Fortune, as well as the Ghost Helm. And it's going to be a dead Tech Marine right here. Terminators now out on the field, though. So first squad of Terminators here coming for the Tenso. So Space Marines starting to hit that critical mass of getting to Tier 3, the game going long. And generally when that happens, I think it's generally the Space Marines who are a little bit more favored. But, I mean, if there are at least a few damage sources against these Terminators out on the field. I mean, we do have the one Dark Reaper squad out of Noisy. We've got two Fire Dragon squads. Only problem is the Fire Dragons do have to get pretty close to the Terminators. And then they will have to... They'll do good damage against the Terminators, but they'll also take a lot of damage in return. Assault Marines jump in, but then it's also an instant retreat for them. Not a whole lot in terms of punishment against them in retreat. No Banshees, no Dire Avenger grenades. And They Shall Know No Fear has been activated on the Tactical Marines. They are shooting at the Dire Avengers while the Dire Avengers are in cover. And flame weapons actually do well against enemies that are in cover. Double Shotgun Scouts moving in, probably looking for more of a Generator Bash. And we're also going to see the Assault Cannon upgraded for the Tenso. That will take out the Farseer. So the Farseer, the Assault Cannon, just kind of a raw, well, actually not technically a raw damage upgrade, since as we see it here, it also does suppression damage. So especially if you already have some other source of suppression, the Terminator can keep a unit suppressed for quite a bit longer. But it's a nice damage upgrade, let's put it that way. It basically grants like almost an additional 30 DPS on top of a squad that's already doing about 100 DPS. So certainly against squishy squads like Dire Avengers, Howling Banshees, honestly even Warp Spiders. Yeah, I mean the Terminator's very, very, very much very good against the Warp Spiders. Dark Reapers, certainly going to be an answer to the Terminators, however, should be able to outrange the Terminators in most cases. The Assault Cannon does have longer range than the Stormbolters of the two other models, but I don't remember if it's as long as the Dark Reapers. Grenade going to go in. That might finish off the squad, and it does. That will be a Guardian Weapon team going down. So Lokyo does have some Seer Council, however. Seer Council certainly a potentially strong answer against the Terminators, especially if the Farseer also has, I was going to say, especially if she has something like the Armor of Fortune or the Spirit Stones. Unfortunately for Lokyo, his Farseer does not have those. Those just being two war gears that would be good at supporting the Seer Council. So yeah, Space Marines really starting to hit that critical mass. We're also going to have the Assault Terminators out for Katla. If anything, the Assault Terminators are interesting in that, if anything, I personally feel that the ranged Terminators would probably be a little bit stronger in this matchup. That's going to be a Scout Squad going down. Ooh, Terminators. Oh, man. Certainly plenty of damage to threaten them there, but they will teleport away. There's also a Whirlwind, but there's also an Eldritch Storm. The Eldritch, oh, this is, yeah, the Whirlwind absolutely does not get out of there alive. Now, that ends up being a really big commitment just to kill a Whirlwind. To spend 500 red just to kill a Whirlwind when we've actually got a Land Raider Redeemer. I don't know why I click over that when we're just going to look at a base. We've actually got a Land Raider Redeemer out for, well, not out, but coming for Local Ghost, and none of our... Okay, actually, Noisy does have the red for an Eldritch, but he's not in Tier 3. So it'll be a long time before the Eldar have another Eldritch available. Yeah, I hate to say it, but in that case, I think the Eldritch on the Whirlwind was a big waste. I mean, I know the Whirlwind can be very, very annoying, but it's also just, it's so squishy that I think you really want to see if you can try to kill it without committing the Eldritch. Oh no, the Assault Marines. Alright, or rather the Vanguard Veterans. It's just so hard just from looking at them at a glance. They get the heals that they need, as well as the Angels of Death to make sure that they don't go down. And now this is actually not looking so good. Okay, Time Fields will be put down. Time Field is also quite good against the Terminators. But it's not going to be enough in this engagement. Unfortunately, it's also slowing the Eldar units, I think. But these Eldar units are actually getting really, really low here. Yeah, man, the Banshees... Yeah, the Banshees get out of there. They lose 3 of their models. The Seer Council lose 3 of their models. And the Terminators, did they lose 1? They lost 1. So now we've got this Land Raider Redeemer out on the field. At least Lokyo is not too far off from another Eldritch. But the Eldar are also not too far off from losing this game on victory points. So, I mean, in the time that it takes for Lokyo to build another Eldritch, they could lose the game. Noisy is now in Tier 3, however, so he's got the Eldritch. And whereas I feel like the Eldritch is overkill for dealing with a Whirlwind, I feel like the Eldritch is almost necessary for dealing with something like a Land Raider Redeemer. And we don't even have a single Bright Lance out for our Eldar players either. Even with an Eldritch, I don't think they even have enough to take this out. I mean, it would be so reliant on the Fire Dragons getting value. Unfortunately, the Fire Dragons here already lost a lot of health. They lost their Exarch as well, so they can't commit the Eldritch now. The Fire Dragons are just so short range that they need to make sure the Vanguard Veterans and the Assault Marines are also going to take care of, or also taken care of if they have any hopes of taking out this Land Raider Redeemer. But things are starting to look bad for the Eldar. The Eldritch will come out. It's going to be backed away from... Oh no, the Eldritch is mostly missing. I don't know if the Eldritch hit at all. Oh man, even if it hit, it barely connected. Looks like an orbital bombardment will miss as well. Time Field. Oh man, yeah, the Eldritch from Noisy barely hitting on the Land Raider Redeemer. I think, ideally, I mean, we're talking here, this is Local Ghost. Oh, we got another Land Raider Redeemer. So he actually microed the Land Raider Redeemer away from the Eldritch, and if you're dealing with players who are going to do that, then you need to combo it. You need like a Haywire or a Time Field before you throw out the Eldritch. Meanwhile, one of those Dark Reaper models getting stunned by the Combi Bolter, the customized Storm Bolter out of the Apothecary. And it's a double cap for the Space Marines. They might just win the game here and now. And honestly, yeah, this is it. This is it. They can't get back on the victory points. They can't break these. They had enough trouble dealing with one Land Raider. They can't deal with 2. So, that will be it. That will be the end of the series. I do hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.